Chairman. I want to close with a couple points. We were recently notified the Game Commission is actually expanding regions, which I just think is very interesting. We're talking about EMS service delivery, but yet the Game Commission and our friends that are sportsmen are expanding their regions. What I didn't hear today was any proof of savings where some of the regionalizations have happened. I'm sure there have been some savings, but I have not seen we heard a new plan today. There's nothing with that plan saying what the savings are going to be. And quite frankly, if the counties pull their money out, I would beg to say that there's not going to be any savings. I know from talking to our folks at home, this has been very demoralizing. It's been very challenging to them. They had to focus resources and efforts into this issue where if we had an open dialogue, perhaps those resources wouldn't have had to be dedicated there. I would hope the director is going to come back with a plan that has some numbers and projected savings. I would hope the brakes are going to be put on the RFP. I know the chairman was able to put the brakes on some of the mergers that were supposed to happen this year with a letter last fall, and I appreciate the efforts there. And I have one final point. Dr. Wydrow talked about the 8% increase in survival rate, or it's in his testimony, by the change in CPR protocols in Bucks County. And yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of a gentleman by the name of Frank Norris being saved by those protocols. And if you'll indulge me with one quick story, it was right after the polar vortex, the ground was covered in frozen snow, and Mr. Norris had a heart attack in a county-owned dog park. He was at the far reaches of the park. The first responder that arrived there was a firefighter, a volunteer firefighter. The protocol that has been implemented throughout our different parts of our county is fire and law enforcement are dispatched along with 2 medic units on a confirmed cardiac. The CPR protocol is a pit crew style CPR. The first arriving firefighter managed, after sliding down a hill, to get to Mr. Norris. A civilian had started CPR on Mr. Norris. She was not CPR trained. She saw on a local news station recently about doing CPR to the beat of saving a life. That firefighter took over, did CPR for 5 minutes while awaiting the rest of the responders to get there. One of the paramedics fell down that hill and broke his shoulder. But the amount of police, fire, and EMS there, it was a 35-minute operation. CPR the whole time to get Mr. Norris in a Stokes basket in the back of a utility fire company pickup truck up to the ambulance to the hospital. Yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of saving Mr. Norris. His wife contacted me. And do you know how I know that story? Because I was the firefighter doing that CPR for 5 minutes. And you know what? That's what this is about. If Dr. Wydrow and our county team had not changed what the protocols are, I guarantee you this would have been the 2-year anniversary of Mr. Norris having passed. So as we talk about savings, as we have turf wars and we play with maps and all kinds of different things and try and make one size fits all, this is about saving the individual. This is about the end user. This is about making sure the men and women that put those uniforms on, climb in those ambulances and respond to people's worst nightmares. When you're calling 911, you're generally experiencing probably one of the worst moments of your life. It is ensuring they have the resources they need, they're well trained, they're well equipped, they can get to the scene in a proper amount of time, perform what they need to do, and try and save that life. So I think I've heard from a lot of my colleagues here today, let's take a step back. We need to take a step back because you just heard several counties testify about the flaws in this process and the importance of the end user, and I think that's what we need to focus on because that's why we're here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.